How is it going, everyone? Hope your day is going great. I welcome you to another episode of Forward Thinking Founders. Before we get into today's episode, I had a quick question for you. If you're listening, have you ever been an investor anywhere? Have you ever put money into an entity and with an expectation of a return? Some of you, not all of you. Well, now is your chance. You can be an angel investor in Forward Thinking Founders, the podcast. And no, you don't got to be an accredited investor. All you need is $10 a month or $100 a year. Now, what does this get you? What's your ROI? Well, it gets you a ton. First of all, you don't have to listen to me pitch you this every single episode, so you bypass all ads and all future sponsorships. You get premium content as you get the full episode of every single episode that comes out, as many of them are kind of blocked halfway through. You get access to our online community where you get to see access to the episodes sometimes days before or weeks before they hit the internet. And lastly, you get access to our in-person meetups, which we are having the first one in San Francisco in late January. So if all of that sounds groovy, and you want to help out a fellow creator, which is me, and help me kind of invest into this podcast to make it better, then please become an angel investor in Forward Thinking Founders. How do you do it? You can find our terms and our sheet and all of our documentation at glow.fm/F20R. That's glow.fm/F20R. It is best done on mobile, and I look forward to having you as a supporter. Now let's get into today's episode. Run it! All right, how is it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Forward Thinking Founders, where we're talking to founders about their companies, their visions for the future, and how the two collide. Today, I'm very, very excited to be talking to Dave Goldblatt, who is the creator, co-founder of Wavechat. Welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hey, thank you for having me. Really appreciate the invite. Really glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm stoked to have you on. I don't think, if my memory serves me correct, I don't believe I've had anyone recently in the audio space outside of so I just published one today or yesterday with Braden of VoiceFlow, but outside of that, I don't think I've jammed on audio for quite a while, so I'm looking forward to this. But a lot of people are listening and they have no idea what you do. They have no idea what Wavechat is. So let's kind of just start there. What are you working on?
Sure. So Wavechat is an app that's on iOS only right now. It's the quick way to describe it is recordings, but more broadly, it helps you make these short little micro podcasts that you can share either on the Wavechat network, either via a story or DM it to someone, or you can export it and share it to Instagram or Snapchat, or save it to your camera roll and share it via text message or iMessage or whatever.
So you mentioned micro podcasts. So
sure.
Let's go into an example of someone using this. So what's your favorite use case or a couple of use cases of people using your product?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that we saw was there was this huge space between, on one end, you have voice messages on WhatsApp or WeChat or whatever, very short, very utilitarian, no real creativity or expressiveness around them. And then on the other end, you have podcasts, which are 30 minutes, an hour long. And we saw that there was a space for people to really express themselves and create using voice, but not completely getting rid of all of the visual elements. So one of the best use cases, and I love doing this. I actually just posted it today. I'm a huge sports fan, so posting a picture of statistics. For example, I recently won my fantasy football semifinal matchup. Everybody can clap for me now if they want to.
That's actually, it's so funny. Obviously I'll let you continue, but the last person I interviewed just like an hour ago is doing fantasy sport platform hosting. So it's so
Oh,
funny.
really?
It's so funny you mentioned
Amazing.
that. But anyways, yeah, keep going.
So I just created a story a couple hours ago, kind of flexing on everybody and saying like, hey, look at me, I'm so great. Here's a screenshot, and that was the background of the Wavechat. Here's a screenshot of all the people that I started. I started the Buffalo Bills defense, which scored 27 points or something. And you can see and that, here's the box score to whoever plays or doesn't play fantasy football. There's a specific format, and you can easily parse that information. But then underneath that, I over my commentary about, hey, like I made this decision to start the Buffalo Bills defense. I started Miles Sanders, who scored a bajillion points, and it used my voice as well. So you could hear Dave Goldblatt saying, like I was there talking with you and pointing to this picture. That's one of the use cases. I'm, a big fantasy sports guy. So for me, that's particularly near and dear to my heart. And we've also seen we have filters. So you can speed up your voice, make your voice sound drunk. It's actually really funny. I like recording certain political figures and changing and warping their voice to make them sound drunk. So just a fun feature to really lower the threshold to sharing voice, the same way that Instagram lowered the threshold to sharing photos and YouTube lowered the threshold to sharing videos. We're trying to do the same thing with voice. You don't need to have a professional microphone and a Breaker account and a Spotify, connect with Spotify to share these little micro podcasts.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about the history of the company, really meaning like, why did you start it? At what point did you realize that, this is something you wanted to do, and why'd you get started with it?
Yeah. So I actually worked at Facebook for 10 years, from 2007 to 2017, and then took some time off. I was actually co-working out of the same space as my co-founder in 2018. He was working on another project for another company. They pivoted and turned into more of a fund, and he wanted to work on product and not be part of a VC fund. So, during that time I was working on the product, I was doing some AI stuff in regards to sound and music, just kind of exploring things. And he was giving me feedback. He's also very into music. He's a DJ. He's originally from Germany, very into electronic and house music. So we were collaborating and just hacking on the weekends. And right around the time where I was like, yeah, I think there's this huge area. I did a bunch of research into, like you mentioned when we were talking before the podcast started, about how audio and voice is really just going to blow up over the next year or two. So it's this unique combination of, we had experience in, I actually have released, like every Jewish kid who grew up outside New York, I was a rapper growing up and wanted to become a rapper. So I've released a couple rap albums. My co-founder has released some tracks on SoundCloud, and he's DJ'd quite a bit. So we know about the audio technology space, intersection of our personal interests along with the market really coming to fruition, that we decided, hey, this is something we really want to explore. So that was in late 2018, formed the company in January 2019. And we decided, hey, let's just we think we have a general sense of what it is we want to do, but let's hack something together and get it out there as quickly as possible. And it was a web-based social network for sharing musical samples. And it was called wavecut.io, and it was a website. And our ultimate goal with that was to basically get a bajillion pieces of audio onto this website and connect everything and structure the world's audio. The downside to that is that, and I'm sure you're aware of this when you saw the transition from web to desktop, people don't really create content on their desktop nearly as much as they do on their mobile phones. And the microphone experience on mobile phones via web is poor, to say the least. So we realized that nobody was really going to create content for a web-based service using only audio. So we quickly realized our error, and about a month and a half later, we decided to pivot to an app. And that's when Cut was born, the app. And have you used the app, the Wavechat app at all?
I think I definitely have used a app to help splice my audio. I
But
think
you
it
haven't
might.
used the Wavechat app. So Wavechat, just to explain to everybody, you can go and download it. It's in the iOS App Store right now. It's very simple, like press to record, records up to 60 seconds of your voice, and then there's a very simple share functionality. WaveCut was our MVP that we came out with in the App Store in about May. It had similar functionality, but none of the social features. And there, if you have like a profile and direct messaging. So we released that in May of 2019. It was really interesting. We saw some really deep engagement for a few people, but it wasn't very frequent engagement. So people would download it, use it maybe once every 1 to 2 weeks, and use it for 15, 20 minutes. But we realized we wanted to do something that people would use every day, hopefully. My background coming from social, I realized that attaching an identity, attaching a network to the set of services that we were building was most likely the way to go. So starting in late July, early August, we started building Wavechat. And then we launched Wavechat in November, about a week before Thanksgiving in 2019.
Got it. That's awesome. The reason why, so there's like, I feel like the wave, like the name wave in audio, there's like a few different things going on with that, and I'm looking forward to the company, which is probably going to be you, that like breaks from the kind of the other companies in the wave noise and just kind of like hits the stratosphere. But I think this is really interesting because you're not just like, I think there's a lot of companies, including one that I used, a wave named app that helped, splice audio. And that's like kind of this kind of, I feel like, I don't know, there's too many of those now, but what you're doing is you're creating almost like a much lower to barrier product for people that want to get into the audio game, where you got all these podcasters or whatever that like spend all this money on microphones like me, right? And it's like kind of there's this barrier. But would you say yours is more for kind of people like the more casual, and almost like, would you compare it in a way to like a audio story, or is that a way you would kind of compare Wavechat to? Or I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Sure. So we actually we have a few interns. We're partnering closely with San Francisco State University, and a lot of them are in the gaming club, the esports club at San Francisco State. And we went to there a couple weeks ago. They had an end of the semester Super Smash Brothers tournament. And I was talking with, I'm sure, as you know, younger people are more likely to pick up newer technology. And I was describing Wavechat to a few people at this tournament. And, I was talking to them and they were like, oh, like kind of like podcasting. And I was like, well, I don't particularly love the term podcasting because it has this connotation to it of I am going to buy expensive equipment and release it to Spotify, and you really have to invest yourself in your brand. and it's a professional type of thing. So I asked this person that I was talking to, how many of your friends have a podcast? And he was like, I think one. And then I was like, all right, how many of your friends have Instagram or Snapchat? And he was like, every single person I know. So yes, I think we want to move eventually beyond, and we're using the term micro podcasting because it's the best language that I think exists to describe uh, a small piece of audio content that's really easy to create and share, and be creative and express yourself on. But I I really hope that people, and I hope that as a product team and as a company, we can provide the tools that let people who would have never in a million years thought to create a podcast use their voice and use audio to express themselves and connect with others and create new forms of media and content that have not previously existed.
And I kind of want to dive into that a little bit about just audio in general and
Sure.
what's happening to the kind of macro economy with audio, and podcasts are on the rise. Audio is on the rise in general with Alexa and AirPods, etc. What are you observing in let's go back to 2017. You saw audio was blowing up. You saw it was growing over time. Can you just kind of describe to the people listening what is happening and what happened to enable this recent growth that we're all seeing?
Yeah, so I don't know if you're familiar with any of Marshall McLuhan's work.
Nah, I'm
So
not.
Marshall McLuhan is this absolute genius media theorist. Have you heard the term "the medium is the message"?
Yes.
So Marshall McLuhan came up with that.
Okay.
He was extremely prolific in the 60s and the 70s and a little bit in the 80s. Unfortunately, he passed away, I think, maybe a decade ago. But he coined the term "the medium is the message." And basically, what that means is that the content that exists within the medium, say television or radio or video on your phone, is not as important as the medium itself. So, just the fact that you're sitting down watching a television that is non interactive, sitting on a couch, that is more important, and that drives the effect that it has on society and on individuals much, much more than whatever it is you happen to be watching, be it, The Wire or Game of Thrones or the Nightly News or Sesame Street. And that influences all of society, whatever the technological medium is that's predominant for the day. Now, for the past 10 or so years, a little over 10 years, the predominant medium has been smartphone. So you're holding your smartphone and you're staring at it and you're typing with your thumbs and you're scrolling and you have all these gestures. Now, I'm not saying that the smartphone is going to go away anytime soon, the same way that the television didn't go away with the invention of the smartphone. But there are going to be these new sets of relationships that individuals and communities and societies have with technology now that there's an Alexa in every room, there's an AirPod in every ear, and there's a shifting cultural acceptance of communicating via the mediums of audio only or audio first. I can't claim to know exactly what the full reach or full effects are of that shift in mediums, but just as you've seen with the myriad ways that people have changed media and that has influenced society, politics, mental health, relationships with the smartphone, the exact same thing is going to happen with having an AirPod in your ear at all times and having this transient layer of auditory information that's constantly being pushed and pulled through your ear. So, it's going to be, and you mentioned before, there's going to be this gold rush, and I don't think we know how it's going to play out, but there's going to be this huge, huge impact on society, and it's only just beginning.
So there's a few things I want to dig into there. First, sometimes you don't know, like when it comes to a market and when a market is growing, it could be growing a lot and you might think, oh, it's at its peak, or it could be
Right.
growing a lot and it could just literally be 1% of the way of how big it's going to grow. I just would love, one, I'd love your guess. I mean, all we can do is guess at this point, or prediction. Is audio, are we already like pretty into the growth of audio, or are we just like, have we not even started yet? Where are we on that spectrum?
So have you heard the phrase, it happens really slowly and then all at once?
Yes,
I,
much
I
so.
th-
Like, oh, yeah, yes.
yeah. I think we're at the almost at the inflection point of it being all at once. My guess is within 2 to 4 years, and this is a result of AirPods mostly being ubiquitous. I think that Apple is poised to um, really do something special with AirPods. Um, with AirPods becoming ubiquitous and these products being built on top of them, so it's almost 2020 right now. I think by 2023, 2024, we're going to see um, and you start to see it in the popular media. It's like the new trend is, and it was Vines or TikToks or Snapchatting. By 2022, you're going to start to see the Verge articles or New York Times articles of, you know, maybe it's sending non-verbal, more auditory messages to each other, kind of an onomatopoeia almost of like, oh, or oh, and that just kind of inputting, I like to call them maybe sonic emojis, the same way that emojis shorthanded text. I think that they're going to be shorthand audio, small pieces of auditory information that are constantly being pushed and pulled into your ears. I think that there's going to be what are the basic human needs that people have? It's connecting with other people, connecting with your tribe, feeling a sense of community. Um, there's utilitarian pieces as well, but I think that there's going to be maybe dating on top of audio where you can have conversations with people before you ever meet them in real life. I wouldn't be surprised if Tinder allowed, or Bumble or one of the other dating applications allowed, voice messages or voice connections where you like the sound of someone's voice first. Um, what are some other predictions that I have? I'm really excited about the more longer term, how this plays into um, augmented reality and the blending of um, the experiences that you can have on top of the real world, and how you can use all of your senses to basically make the world uh, as cool or as molded to your own perspective or wants or needs as you want. So one of the things that I saw maybe on Twitter, I forget who posted it. You match with somebody on Tinder or on LinkedIn, and you're at the same conference, and you want to network with them very quickly. If you both have AirPods in, all the other noise is blanked out, and you start an audio conversation with them, and then you're like, hey, I'm on the third floor. Oh, you're on the second floor. Meet me at the bar and order me rum and coke. Um, and there's maybe a visual overlay as opposed to a like where you've like connected with the other person. There are all these types of experiences where the richness of human expression and human living can just be greatly increased by having audio on top of it. And that's just the beginning. I'm sure that in 5 years there's going to be absolutely mind-bending experiences that no one can predict. So
that's the thing with technology. Like, just think, the decade is almost over, right? You mentioned it's nearly the end of December, and it's the start of a new decade. Like a decade ago, think of like all the things that didn't even exist or were still nascent, like Uber. Like Uber is now this conglomerate, and it was just like an idea, or like had a couple of riders a decade ago. So I agree with you that it's impossible to know what's going to be around in a decade. I kind of want to dive in a little bit more on AirPods, because I had Leah Culver on the podcast, who's the co-founder of Breaker, the CTO of Breaker, like a long time ago. I don't know, like 8 months ago, 10 months ago. And
super long time ago.
Well, sorry. It's in the context of the pod. She was guest number 3. So it seems like long ago in the context of the pod.
It's so funny that you mention the conception of time and how 2010 feels like such a long time ago. I was actually hanging out last night with my girlfriend, and I mentioned something that happened in the Barack Obama-Hillary Clinton debate in 2008, and we pulled up a YouTube clip of it, and we watched it, and we were like, this feels like a million years ago. And it was like 11 years ago. It feels like it was some other century when Barack Obama was debating Hillary Clinton for president, for the Democratic nomination for president. And I think that's something, you touch on, of feels like time is speeding up. 8 months ago feels like forever ago. Like, so something to think about.
No, I like that. And you're right. Like 8 months it's not that long. It's not even a year. It's not even, it's 8 months, but it's weird because I use the podcast starting as my ruler, as my timeline. But the podcast isn't even a year old. So it's just, it is all about perception. But I was interviewing her, and we were just talking about the AirPods, and that was before the AirPods Pro. That was even before the second version of the AirPods. Just the original ones just came out. And she was saying she was excited about the AirPods API and what you could do with that. And back then there wasn't so much information on it, so we're really just like imagining. But I'm kind of curious, do you know much about the AirPods API, or could you just like imagine, what are some of the things that the API, is going to allow? And I guess my third question there is, how do you think, this might not be a fair question, but you're definitely seem like an expert on this. Like, you're very, very well articulated. So how do you think the AirPods are going to change over time to get to the version they need to get to in order to like reach augmented reality? Like, will they get smaller? Will they be implants? Like, I don't know. Just, that's a barrage of questions. Feel free to take them how you want.
Yeah. I think, I like to think when I'm thinking about product in terms of cognitive friction, where, and I don't know if this is...
All right, I hope you enjoyed that section of the episode. The rest of the audio and the rest of the recording is for subscribers only, for angel investors only. So if you've been enjoying the conversation and you want to unlock the rest of the conversation and the rest of every other conversation that will be potentially paywalled halfway through, then become an angel investor. The way you become an angel investor is by going to glow.fm/F20R, and you sign up to give me $10 a month or $100 a year. And best of all, there's a 7-day trial. You don't get charged for 7 days. If you don't like it, then just cancel. No risk. So I really hope you like this episode. And if you do, and you want to unlock the rest and the rest of the future episodes, please, please, please become an angel investor and support the next generation of media companies, subscription economy. All right. With that, I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.